Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hey guys, Chris Hanson here from Karate Unity. Thanks so much for going live with me, and thanks in advance to those watching the replay when I post it up on YouTube and pretty much everywhere else. So welcome to another edition of the Karate Unity podcast. Today we'll be talking to someone who really needs no introduction, really. A prominent karate influencer, Iain Abernethy. We'll be talking about a topic that we're both passionate about, traditionalism and the evolution in karate. Okay, so for those of you who are new here, welcome to Karate Unity. My name is Chris Hanson. You can find me here on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm a karate guy who loves all martial arts. And basically my platform is a recording of my training journey, uniting martial arts and combat sports into my karate. So before my special guest comes on, I just want to give a big ups to everybody just rolling in, I see. So how you guys doing? Big ups to everybody on here. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could drop an emoji, a thumbs up, some hearts, and also comment. Let me know where you guys are from. Okay, we see Ben. How you doing, Ben, from Staffordshire? Steve, how you doing? And my Renchi, Rob Swan, how you doing? Okay, just another couple of seconds, and we're gonna bring Iain on. Oh, there he is. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you, no problem at all.
All right. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
You
Good afternoon.
What did you do today?
Well, finally, he's trying to get caught up on all my emails today, so I've been getting all that ready. I've got 150 outstanding, so that's probably going to be the job for the remainder of the day, I think now.
Wow.
Yeah. Done a little bit of training, walked the dog, cooked some food, tidied the kitchen, you know, all the Sunday stuff.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, we're back again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think refresh my memory. I think last time we spoke was it was before COVID, right? Or was it just when it just started?
No, I think it was when it just started. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I think in the summer there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I remember it was hot because my iPad burnt out, if you remember.
Yes, I remember that. I think it overheated because it was so hot in the car.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm in the living room today, so I shouldn't have that problem. And it's winter, of course, now.
Yes. How cold does it get over there?
The weather here is fairly consistent, right? So it's just cold and wet and grey for like 12 months of the year. It just varies in how cold, wet and grey it gets. So we don't get like you guys get, you know, with the snow and sub-zero temperatures. It's rare it snows, but I don't know, I like it. It's my natural habitat.
Yeah, you used to. Yeah, right now it's pretty mild, but you know, we've been like in Toronto, we get sometimes minus 30, minus 35 degrees Celsius. So it's crazy, man.
Yeah, nothing like that. I always remember the first time I went to Australia where it was like super warm and hot in Melbourne for a week. And then coming back to land in Manchester, and when we landed, it's the cold, the wet, and the grey. I always say it felt like a fish being put back in the tank. You know, I could deal with this, you know, cold, wet, and grey, but don't do well with the heat. Yeah, I get it. Okay, so let's get right into it. From the work you do and your messaging on social media, I've noticed that, you know, you're a huge proponent of what I call healthy traditionalism and the evolution of karate. These two ideas, Iain, you know, they resonate with me really deeply. And I'd love your take on traditionalism and the evolution of karate and what that means to you. But before I do, I'm excited because I've spoken to pretty much all my friends about this. And I want to share, and I've spoken to you, I think, a little bit about this. I want to talk to you about Nagamine really quickly. And it ties in really well with this whole topic. So I got this book. It's very well used. There's sticky notes and notes all over it. The binding's all broken. I got this. This is such a memory piece for me. I got this when I was 13 years old. Okay, I remember the day. Like, my teacher came back from Okinawa, and he's a praying mantis Shorin-ryu guy, and so he fused a lot of those arts together, which was a nice expression of his karate. And he told us all. He says, "Listen, you guys are coming up the ranks now, and I want you guys to use these books to firm up your kata." So this book is a kata book, but it also talks about
it gets into Nagamine's mind and his history. And so I wanted to share this little snippet with you because it elucidates clearly about traditionalism and evolution from a Okinawan mindset. And it points to one conclusion, that these guys were training hard, they were fit, they were learning, and they were cross-training given what they knew and what was accessible to them. Okay, so I really want to share this with you. So first of all, my take on what traditionalism is, you know, according to like a textbook definition. I mean, I've looked up tons of definitions on it, and plus I teach some of that as part of my social studies as an elementary school teacher. It's basically the transmission of customs or beliefs from generation to generation, right? Now, to me, okay, if you look at a bubble, like I'm a very visual person. If you look at the 1800s or maybe even earlier in Okinawa, you know, you had that the karate was brimming, right? Okinawans were developing their art. They were cross-training. They were testing themselves. Some of them were putting themselves in fights too. Like I know Matubu loved to scrap, according to my research. And so they were testing, they were cross-training and stuff. And all of that moved on. But then there was a disconnect somewhere. And that's where I'm going to ask you. So bookmark that thought. I want to know, why is that disconnect? And I have my theories on it. But so that healthy tradition was supposed to be passed on. I think it was their intention to do that. Now, here's proof, written proof, verbatim, that Nagamine was doing this, okay? So on page 61, right here, I've taken notes and I've bookmarked it, okay? It's in a section on tachikata, so he's talking about stances, okay? And I used a lot of this for a lot of my material too, you know, just to elucidate some points. So he says, straight off the bat, he goes, Karate-do is a martial art used in a kill or be killed, can be used in a kill or be killed situation, he says. And then he goes on directly to talk about, he says, therefore, because of that, stance training is key. And he says there are 3 attributes that must be followed. He goes, in order for your stance training to be on par and for you to have the kill or be killed instinct in your training. And this is what he says. He says, and he highlights it right over here. Okay, 3 things. Okay, right here. Okay, he goes, long endurance. Okay, full body, long endurance, including the legs. Okay, stability and balance, flexibility and mobility. Then here's the thing. Here's the sealer. Okay, and then I want to get your take on it. Okay, so then here's the sealer. He goes, martial arts and I repeat, and combat sports such as kendo, judo, aikido, boxing, and wrestling have these attributes. We need to learn from these things. Then he goes on and he says, but and he says there right here, he says, but these 3 conditions are often neglected in kata and freestyle sparring in some karate schools. Yeah. So my conclusion from all of this, like I was like brimming, I had goosebumps, and I got goosebumps even now. I'm thinking, yes, we have, like, I'm not as schooled and versed as you guys, you and some like Pat McCarthy, for example. I look at him because he's like an encyclopedia of all this. Yeah, Andreas Quast and all these guys, right? Yeah. But I looked at this and I looked at this and I looked at this and I did research, and I'm thinking, this is just one out of many examples of how these guys perpetuated this healthy tradition, right? And so, I mean, we've got proof. I mean, he's looking at combat, like the mix of arts that he talks about. He talks about kendo, judo, aikido, boxing, and wrestling. Well, if you look at that, kendo is a stick form, but it's got dynamic footwork. Judo and aikido, you've got a mix of grappling, lots of atemi and stuff. Boxing and wrestling, grappling and striking, right? So MMA right there. And to prove the point, he's not just saying it, he actually did it. So apparently he's got a 3rd dan in kendo, and he's got a 1st dan in judo, and he cross-trained with a bunch of other guys too. So I'm done. I just wanted to share this with you. I just wanted to, I was excited. And I just wanted your take on traditionalism and evolution. Go.
Yeah, I always think and that's the point. You see, when you actually look at what the past masters wrote about tradition, it's quite different from what started to be viewed as traditionalism from, say, 1950s, 1960s. So the quote that always leaps to mind for me is Funakoshi's, where he said, times change, the world changed, and obviously martial arts must change too.
Yes.
There's the karate that is taught today, that high school students learn today is different from the karate of 10 years ago, and is very different indeed from the karate I learned as a child in Okinawa. And that is not a criticism. He's saying that is a good thing.
Yes.
That it has changed and evolved over time. And the one, I mean, just looking at, you cannot find a single one of what we would now call the classical generation, if you like, the ones who gave us karate in its modern form. You can't find a single one of those who passed it on exactly as it was taught to them. So I always think when people talk about traditionalism, my friend Jamie, who you know, Jamie Clubb, right?
Yeah, Jamie, yeah.
Yeah, Jamie's a great guy, real deep thinker. And Jamie uses the term pseudo-traditionalism as opposed to traditionalism. Because I would class myself, and from my definitions, you would be too. I would class you as a traditional martial artist because that's a framework you've got. But the tradition is one of taking what we've been given and then trying to build on it in any way that we can. We shouldn't try and preserve the martial arts in amber. I always use the thing is, I think a tree is a good analogy for this. You know, if we talk about traditional roots, the whole purpose of roots is to encourage growth.
Yes.
If the tree is not growing, it's dead. Those roots are dead. So if you want to preserve your traditional roots, the way that you'll see that those roots are doing what they're supposed to do is you'll see new gradual growth. I think sometimes as well, people mistake that for, like, we're talking about radical revolution, which isn't how I see it. I always like it. Science is another good example. Yep. You know, earlier today when I'm doing my chores, I'm listening to some guy talk about physics, and they mention Newton, and we all, like, Newton kind of has this classical physics, and then physics moves on. But no one says, oh, well, Newton was an idiot, didn't know what he was talking about. We just get, over time, we gradually build on each generation to get better and better. And to that quote there, I wasn't previously aware of that Nagamine quote, but it's a good one. But Chojin Miyagi, the founder of Goju, said pretty much the same thing. The karate should expose itself to practitioners of other systems for criticism and to see what could be learned. You know, the aim is not to keep things exactly the same just because that was how your instructor did it. It's got to move on.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just responding to, I'm multitasking here. I'm responding to all these questions coming in. Somebody asked me if you and I have ever competed in the tournament circuit. And I said no.
No,
we haven't.
I did a long time ago.
Yeah, I think if I did, you'd kill me. I've seen
that against each other. No.
Yeah.
No. There's an Atlantic between us.
Yeah. So I guess my next question is, I've got all kinds of reasons why there has been a disconnect. So basically there's been a disconnect, and clearly there has been, because that's what gives you business. That's what gives us business. That's what keeps us driven. And I mean business, not just from, you know, a monetary point of view. It keeps us passionate. The fact is just that disconnect, and the fact that we want to, you know, do things right. Like the way, like, it's not just, man, I'm so passionate about this. I can't even coherently talk about this. I'm an educator. Okay. And I wanted to talk to you about that later, but since we're talking about it now, I'm an educator, and I look at the school of education. I look at education as a faculty. So it's this huge entity. You walk in and you're learning a bunch of stuff, and and your education evolves year after year. So if you take a look at an elementary school paradigm, you walk in, you've got your JK and your primary years, and then real learning starts to happen, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, right? Where we start drilling and putting more concepts into your head, right? But the thing is, not one teacher can do all that. So you've got the education, which is, to me, this, let's synonymously swap the word education for martial arts. Okay. So I'm going to flip flop between the two. You've got education as this big faculty. It's huge, but you've got all these specialties. You've got all these educators that are going to be specializing in that education for you. It's going to give you something specific. So you have a math teacher, you have a social studies teacher, you have a geography teacher, right? And all of these guys are giving you streams of information that you're going to digest. And it's all part of this holistic education. And this evolves each year, right? And then once you're done, you know, the hope is, you know, these teachers have facilitated some sort of independence in you, and you're going to perpetuate that by learning things on your own and using all of these connections you've made, right, to foster this growth. So the roots is the school, and the tree, all the leaves and everything are you're making all this flourish, right? So when I see that, I'm thinking, okay, these karate guys were doing that back in the day, but there's this huge disconnect now. Society is moving on in that way, right? In order for us to do anything, we need to educate ourselves on anything, and we need to act on it, right? But why is the disconnect? Why is the silos? Why are there stylistic disconnections? It drives me nuts. And that's why I created Unity, right? Yeah. So I want your take. Like, I want to know why. Like, my reason why, I think it's fear and insecurity and not lack of confidence or something like this.
I think I don't know. Human elements definitely come in. I think you've got historical elements as well. So there's a couple of things on that one. So the first one is with the Budo revolution, if you like. So everyone following judo's lead. Karate suddenly gets taught in a very different way. So you've got large groups of people doing it in university halls, primarily as a form of physical exercise and personal challenge.
Yep.
So and that produces a large number of instructors very quickly who have learned that version of karate and don't have the sufficient depth. And I think that starts to bed in the idea, well, this is how my sensei always did it. So it's been taught in a monkey see, monkey do way, and that gets perpetuated in the teaching. So I think that's one thing. It becomes part of the culture. So the true tradition of constant change gets replaced by a modern tradition of do not change anything. And I think part of that is because outside testing starts to disappear a little bit. So what happens is people can stay within that framework. And then what works against another karateka works against another karateka because you've got an agreed way of fighting. Also, you get artificial criteria being added in. What does it look like? Is it as sensei said it should be? So that fosters this idea of never change it as well. So that's one thing. And then, of course, that leads to the things you talked about, insecurity and everything else. To use the high school analogy is, I think there's another level to that as well. So if I went to my geography teacher knows all there is to know about geography. My chemistry teacher knows all there is to know about chemistry and will know a little bit about physics because those overlap a little bit. Yeah. So he understands everything about those areas very depth. But it's like us in martial arts. We can't be experts in everything. So a person could choose to go to a karate school, a good karate school, and learn very complete, very holistic karate or Krav or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever it is they choose. If you've got an holistic teacher, you'll learn that in a full and holistic way. But if you want to advance any given element of that, that's the point where you need to start looking for those outside instructors who will have specialized in that area. So for me, for example, when throwing was taught to me as part of karate as I did it, but then one of my karate instructors said, okay, you know, your throwing is fine, but we want to make it excellent. Now go study some judo. Do you know what I mean? To work with specialists in those areas.
To clean it up a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a case that people need to do, well, I'm going to go to taekwondo for kicking and wrestling for takedowns and boxing for punching. They can find arts that will cover, you know, all those elements well. But if you wanted to be a superb puncher, then boxing, or superb kicker, look at taekwondo. And
yeah,
you know, those areas that specialize in those things can obviously be helpful. You know, but you can get a broad education. You can be an entirely competent martial artist if you find a holistic instructor in one given system. But if you want to excel, that's when you've got to start looking at cross training.
I was perfect. I was just thinking, you know, this has been brewing on my mind for a long time. So I've been thinking, we want to be, if you look at the doctor analogy, you've got your general practitioner and then you've got your specialists, right?
Yeah.
Well, we as martial artists, I would like to look at us as a general practitioner. We want to be the best possible general practitioner ever. by keeping all these specialists at bay, right? Nearby. So, you know, so I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
That's a really good analogy, actually. I think that's a really good analogy. So you've got, like, again, to quote Jamie again, Jamie has this idea that self-defense is like first aid.
First aid. I knew you were going to say that.
It's a brilliant analogy, right? So you can teach a member of the public to be a competent first aider. We as martial artists are going to step beyond that. I love your analogy. We're going to be GPs. But if you want to be a brain surgeon of punching, go do boxing. If you want to be the heart surgeon of ground fighting, go and do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. If I want to,
But we all have that first aid training and that general practitioner training, and then we've still got the opportunity to go and specialize beyond that, you know, in whatever floats your boat.
No, exactly. And to your point, the first aid thing is it's a brilliant analogy. Like we can talk the whole podcast about this thing. The first aid idea and self-defense classes, right? Or any kind of martial art classes. It's like, you know, I know that firsthand because, you know, as an educator, I have to get my first aid and CPR updated on a certain schedule and stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I don't remember every single little thing, you know, all these procedures. And sometimes when I'm called at school, like I'm the go-to guy for first aid there, one of them anyway, and say a student, you know, has some sort of injury and stuff, you know, for some general things, I'm pretty good at. But then sometimes when I have a kid in a crisis situation, I know enough to keep them safe and breathing and all that. Yeah. But then it buys me some time to actually, I quickly look up in my book, you know, because I have it all bookmarked, easy accessible on an emergency situation. I look it up. I look up that procedure right away, and then I have to, I execute, right? But now, ideally, I should be doing this, practicing these scenarios all over and over again, at least reading about them. So I have them in my mind, right? And I think, you know, what happens with a lot of martial artists and self-defense classes and things like that, you know, you go to a seminar or anything really, you go to a seminar, you have a blast of all this knowledge, do this, do this, do this. And unless you don't train it, it's gone, man. It's faded.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things for the physical things as well. Really, for self-defense, that's a very small part of it. So people can practice the self-defense elements daily, just the way they conduct the general everyday lifestyle. But yeah, I think, and that's, you know, that's the point. But I also think where that analogy really works is if we take like the specialist. So let's say that, you know, the high-level boxer, the brain surgeon of punching. The brain surgeon, if he sees somebody fall over in the street, he doesn't use his brain surgery. He uses his first aid.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the fact that that's the point, you know, with the first aid self-defense analogy, we'll all be doing pretty much the same stuff. It's then what we go on to specialize in those other areas. And I think keeping a clear eye on how they all relate but aren't the same thing is really important, I think. You know, and then that's a fun then, because then we can, you know, the self-defense side is important, but we can tick it off and say, yeah, we've done that. Now what excites us, what interests us, what do we want to excel at, without that need to tie it back to, well, would this work in first aid? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. And that ties to the growth mindset, right? You've got that brewing in the background and you're always moving forward. You know, I'm just responding to, I just want to give some shout outs to a lot of people over here. So MPW 1983 says, also a case of picking up on the albeit minor issues with positioning it online. I think he was responding to something we talked about earlier, but I lost the context there. But he gave a comment to us that great analogies that we were talking about earlier. And then let's see, Michael Baird said, regarding education, someday the student leaves the school to be on their own, and we don't do that anymore as a martial artist, right? Yeah, so I think what he's talking, I get that. You know, I liken it to raising children. Yes. You know, if you're going to raise children well, if that child is living in your basement when he's in his 40s, you've not done a good job. So, you know, if you've got students who have never had an independent thought of their own, have never learned anything of their own, have never gone out and studied something independently, you have been a bad instructor. The whole point of being a good instructor is that your students will eventually supersede you. Or at least some of them will, you know what I mean? So otherwise, if we don't do that, then karate stagnates. So yeah, I get that. You know what I mean? We want people to. All instructors should be a step along the way. There shouldn't be a permanent base. None should.
And just to complement what you're saying, and to what this gentleman was saying too, you know, good solid education, okay, can take many forms, right? But if you want it to be organic and you want it to be personal, you know, you got to look at it like let's just say from a business paradigm. You know, you have a manufacturing plant, you have your manufacturing supply chain kind of industry, okay? And then you've got farming and agriculture, okay? So if you take a look at the manufacturing process versus the farming process, they're both kind of related, okay? But I would kind of cater the martial art education and education more like the farming process or gardening, right? Where there's this constant intervention of, you know, you got to make sure the environment's good, the soil. You got to position the plants right. You got to keep it in the right environment. You're constantly checking on it. You're feeding it. You know, you're putting in fertilizer. You know, you're taking care of all these conditions, and you're letting it grow.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, whereas, you know, in the manufacturing process, I mean, you've got all of these systems and flows all working together, but they're all working the same. And you're producing this one particular product, and then you're on to the next. You know what I'm saying? Whereas farming, to me, if I like to teach using this farming method, right? Like, so I don't have a whole slew of kata. I've learned a whole bunch of them, but I'll pick and choose certain elements or certain katas for my students. I just wanted to know what your take on that is, like manufacturing versus farming. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that analogy as well. Yeah, I think that works. It brought to mind, there's a Danny DeSanto quote about how a good instructor will give experiences as opposed to direct lessons. You know what I mean? So you kind of put the student in an environment where they grow. But I'd relate that back to the traditional Shu Hari model, which is, you know, central to everything we've been talking about. You've got this Shu, Hat, and Ri, these three characters, where the idea is that we copy, we diverge, we transcend. So when a student walks into the dojo, they will copy you directly because they have nothing else. But at a certain point, you should then encourage them, okay, diverge now, make this your own. You know, start to take my lessons and make them yours. And eventually they'll start creating their own unique stuff. So again, it's that thing of, you know, you don't want the 40-year-old child in the basement. You don't want them constantly copying what you've done. And it relates to this, the idea that their own individual evolution as well as the art's evolution that should be encouraged for the student. The need to make it their own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to talk more about that. The need to make it your own, right? So I have been like, since I get excited, and now that, especially when I know I can do something technically, like I was a technical guy. I was an IT guy years and years ago. That was my former life. But then I took a break from that and I got into education. And so my tech skills have gotten weaker. And tech doesn't die. I mean, tech just gets more complicated, and you know, as you move on, and it gets better too, right? So I'm trying to play catch up now, and I'm learning how to put more stuff out there and stuff. So I get really excited, and I'm putting up a lot of stuff. But the drawback to that, though, is the stuff that I'm putting out. To me, I don't really think it's anything different than what masters were doing back then. And I'm not trying to toot my horn, but what I'm trying to say is, to your point, I'm expressing my karate, right? And people think, like, you know, like, and you are too. And I'm sure, like, I'd like to know, the reason why I'm asking you this, because I want to know your side of response to the public, of what you're doing. Like, I take kata, and I've learned it like an alphabet. You know, I've learned it a specific way in my school. But then later on, when I left that school, I looked at other styles and other ways, other styles that do that same kata, or other systems that are totally different, that are from countries that are from different places. They're also doing the same movements, but they're doing it in a different context for a different purpose and things. And then all of that is informing my understanding of the kata that I learned right from the beginning when I was a kid. And so when I'm expressing it, like, for example, little things like, you know, if I'm doing can't do it because I'm attached to this thing. But if I'm doing like a Naihanchi, you know, the Naihanchi step where the first, you know, in Naihanchi 1, you're stepping across and then you do foot check and you go, right? I've learned, I've seen that movement done in various arts, that cross step moving forward. But so what I've done is I've kind of modified it to fit my body mechanics, because I've got hip issues and things. So I step a little bit more wider, and so that I can open up my hip more to move, you know, into my next move. And so I tell all my students, I said, okay, this is the idea, but you adjust it according to what you need to do it for. And so everyone's doing kata a different way, and they're making it their own. And then later on, when I teach them, you know, when I teach them ideas on how you can kind of synthesize and use different ideas for Bunkai, everything looks different across everybody. So I want your take on making kata, or making karate your own. What does that look like and feel like for you?
There's the extremes there as well. So I can, the traditionalists that will end up watching this, the pseudo-traditionalists, they'll have a meltdown at this point.
Yeah.
Because they may misunderstand that what we're suggesting is not a free-for-all. What, you know, so it's not. So let's like, so for example, the katas are like, they're tools to initially communicate combative principles and ideas that you can then give free expression.
Yes.
So now, so the letter A is the letter A.
Yeah.
But right, so when a child goes to school, they'll learn the same. When they're doing that, they're learning kata. This is the shape, and this is what it means, and this is the sound. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Same the world over. Now then, and that's how you and I would do. That's a kata A. Right, now what I'm going to say is, right, I want you and I to write out in our own handwriting Funakoshi's 20 precepts, and your handwriting will look different to my handwriting. Right, but it's still based on the same fundamental things there. So we're not having a guy says, "Oh, I decide I'm going to make an A like this." You know, I mean, that's the chaotic free for all. There are some things that cannot be altered. You need those two diagonal lines. You need that horizontal line. Yeah. Or you need the curve and the tail. Right? How big you make the curve, that can't be altered. Otherwise, you lose the whole point. Right. So it's the same with the kata. You can get subtle changes within it, which will suit different body types better. But the same fundamental structure should remain the same. Then, of course, having done that, the next stage, having learned to write, you then start to communicate. So now, with those tools, express your thoughts, express your ideas. I always like Itosu's 6th precept, where he said, learn the explanations of every movement fully, and then decide how you would use them when needed.
Brilliant.
So I think there's that element as well. So you and I, we have different mindsets, we've got different builds, we've got different levels of talent in various areas, so things that you can make work easily I'll struggle with, vice versa. So then you go, well, we've all learnt the same fundamental tools of communication, the fundamental tools of combat. Now we will create with our own, like a carpenter, right? Carpenters are Yuchuru's martial analogy. They learn a set of skills, they have the same set of tools, but what they end up producing will be unique.
Yes, and I love it, man. You know what, I've been thinking similar things. Like when I talk to everyone close in my bubble, you know, about the craziness that I do, I use these analogies. I use letters. I use notes. I use music and things like that. Because they're all easy to elucidate this idea, right? So, like for example, like I use tools a lot too. The idea of a tool and carpentry. So, for example, just to elucidate on your part, I look at kata as and we've talked about this too, about you and I about this. I look at kata as a biomechanical tool set and a conceptual lesson delivery tool set as well. Okay, those are those two things that I look at it as. So if you look at it as a biomechanical tool set, so biomechanical and tool set, I mean, and then carpentry. If you look at it like that, well, you're taking out. So you've got these motions, okay. And that, to me, this is the letter A, okay? But you cannot do a job if you just keep the tool like that. You have to take the tool, take it out, and use it. So it's got to move in the space. You got to have your hammer. You got to have something. You got to hit it. But the hammer has a certain shape to it. It's got a certain biomechanical structure to it that, you know, if you were to take the hammer apart, it's not a hammer anymore. But if you have the hammer, you can use the hammer, for an impact tool, But if that's all you've ever been taught, then that's all you're ever going to know. But later on, if you educate yourself or even just play with the tool in various conditions in your job, you'll see that you can use the hammer, the back side of the hammer. You can use the hammer on the side to hit certain things. You can use the hammer to smoothen things out if you know, as you're working. So you come up with, just through sheer experience, different ways of using that tool, right? And to me, that's the creative side. So I wanted your take on that, because like I see you doing that clearly. I'm doing that. A lot of my friends are doing that. And not only just in the karate world, you know, that's how you become free. That's how you become good. That's how you become professional, is test, experiment, try, shuhari, learn something, play. And it's a natural, the shuhari, like you mentioned, Iain, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's natural learning. That's experience. That's life. You know, like, yeah. Sorry, got excited there for a second.
Imitate, innovate, invent is another way I've seen it expressed. You know what I mean? But it's the same.
Learn, create, liberate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the same fundamental idea.
Yeah.
And then as well, so you've got certain fundamental structures within certain movements, or certain ways of moving that are always going to be required. But once you start applying them, you've then got the variables of conflict coming. So how is that guy moving? How are you moving relative to one another? What's this guy's size? What's his posture at the moment? The movements start to vary. So when we do the kata, we are looking for a very precise reenactment of these certain movements within, as we've talked about, with adaptation to the individual. It's not a free-for-all. We're trying to get that. When we come to start to apply it, you'll get another layer of natural changes there because of the external stresses. So I liken this, you know, sometimes people go, you know, in the kata, the hand was here, but in the application, the hand was here. It's, well, so what? Do you know what I mean? So if you went to a boxing gym and they taught you to throw a cross, hit Google Images and type in boxing cross knockout and try and type 2 images that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, exactly the same.
Yeah.
So the guy's head is the same, the weight distribution is the same, his arm position's the same, they're moving in the same direction. You just don't get it. So the fundamentals of that punch do not change. It's the same punch. But in application, it will always adapt slightly or significantly without violating the underlying concept. It will always change and adapt. And again, I think those who include, and you have to, those who include live practice in their training get this, because it's a mandatory part of getting live things to work live, is that you can adapt to the specific circumstance. The ones who don't train live, which I can't fully get my head around, I can't understand how a martial artist can't train live, like a swimmer saying I never get in the water. Yeah. But that's when you can have these arguments about, well, should the hand be here or here or here or here or here? Yeah. In combat, it'll be in all of them. Yeah. So depending on exactly what's happening at that moment will be on where you are. Yeah. Yeah. So you pick one of those examples for the kata, and Shotokan may choose one, and Shitori will choose another, and Matsubashi will choose another. But ultimately, what will determine how it will be performed is how those two individuals are interacting at that moment. So it's a lot more organic and free than people think it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. We touched on a point that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about your Bunkai process, and that you kind of talked about that, but I just want to flesh it out a bit more. So I wanted to discuss, you know, your Bunkai process in a sense that, like, for me, it's organic. Like, we need to keep it organic in a sense that, you know, applications come out of live progressive resistance drills, right? Like, for example, you know, I discover them in this way through sparring. I discover this way through just, like, you know, live training. And now live training, there's all kinds of, like, you know, you've written about this, you have this in your books and in your apps and all this about, I believe you call it the matrix, a training matrix or something like that. Yeah. So, like, hold on, I lost my thought here. Yeah. So you're training in a live environment, and, you know, you're just in that moment and you're at pocket, and then after you look back, you know, it's training. So you look back and you say, okay, what went wrong? You know, you debrief, you look back, and then you're thinking, okay,
I got hit here, I got hit here because of this, this, and this. Okay, these are some of the adaptations I can make next time and stuff. And you just drill the heck out of it. And then what you do is you just insert it and then you change. And sometimes that might not work because the opponent is going to stiff arm you or move or, you know, little changes like that. So live practice needs to happen with progressive resistance. But here's my thing. You know, I'm aging. Like, I think we're about the same age. I'll be 52 in a couple of weeks. And, you know, I can't go as hard as I used to. So, but for me, a healthy amount of hard would be like maybe 20, 25%. That's enough for me to keep it dynamic and keep me thinking. So I just wanted to ask you, like, you know, what's your take on the Bunkai process? Like, how do you keep it fresh? Like, if you were to tell the users here the viewers here, give them some key advice, what would you give them? Like, how can you keep Bunkai development healthy?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that as well. So there's the analysing process, which became an historical need in some cases. Yeah. And then there's having established the way that you view the kata, how do you teach that in a way that leads to function? So if you had someone who said, I don't know what my kata is all about, my advice to them would be, go and find an instructor who can show you what that kata is all about. Do you know what I mean? So, because sometimes you'll go to an instructor and say, oh, Bunkai, you work it out. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that. You know, go find somebody. You know, you don't need, like, you know, I get that a lot. People come to me and they go, everything else I've got in place, but I want help with the Bunkai side of things. Well, I can help you with that. But that would be my first thought. If you don't even know where to begin, start there. For those who are being taught kata with applications, the process as I have it is, so my students go, and it's a very quick process. Most of this will happen within the same class. Yes. They will go, and I don't necessarily stick to this order either, but I'll go, right, here's the movement of the kata, right? So there's a movement. Let's drill that movement. Right. Now get with a partner. Here is what that movement represents, and here's the application. Right. You put it right away. You showed it to them right away. Straight away, because so they understand them, right? Yeah. And I may do it the other way around. I may even go, here's the movement. Now here's how it looks in the kata, right? Yeah. And then you go, this movement works because. So this is the vulnerability I'm exploiting. These are the tactics I'm applying. This is what we're doing. They're the combative principles upon which this movement is based. And I now have I've got a live drill I want you to do, which isn't basically get in there and fight. I'll have a live drill where I'll go, this live drill will isolate those specific elements and give you a chance to play with it in a live free-flowing way. So if I picked Shuto because we just did it, right? So if I did the Shuto, basic application, this hand is pushing his limb, try and frame it right, his arm down as this one comes into his neck. So practice that a few times with your partner so you get the idea. So this is a concept we have husband and wife hands, it's pushing his arm down. It's active, passive. A large tool against a weak area. When you do this, you'll tilt his body a little bit, try and make sure that you're not in front of the enemy, try and keep the enemy off their line, yada, yada, yada. Explain to them that it's a mid-range tool. So in real fighting, it'll disappear really quickly. Nice. Yeah. In and straight through it. But to isolate it, now what I want you to do with your partner is I want you to stand with your feet overlapping. And if this was a beginner, the game I'd say is I want you to reach out and touch the chest. Yes. Right? And then the other person, or the shoulder. The shoulder. Yeah. And what you've got to try and do is get that out of stop them from touching your shoulders and touch their shoulders. And then very quickly they start using their hands to control and push. Right. And I can point out to them, see, that there, you're doing it now, you're doing it in a free-flowing way. And then you can do the head, and then you can say, okay, put gloves on and try and hit one another. You can build it up as their level builds up. Yeah. And then you go, right now, back to the kata. When you're doing that movement, I want you to visualize all of that. And then the solo kata becomes a useful thing then because it triggers memories of all those experiences. It's not hollow. So the solo kata becomes a different beast. The people who do it without Bunkai, without live experience, it's empty. It's an empty shell. Yeah. But for those that have had those live practices, when they do it, it's a chance to visualize it and support it. Right. And I'll just finish on this. And I think that's a problem, though. So most karateka do kata. There are some that don't, but most do. A greater number will do applications in some way or another. A smaller number identify what the actual concepts of those applications are and in order to be able to adapt and vary them. And far too few then take all of that into live practice. Yes. You need all of that for it to work. 100%. Yeah. I mean, that is professionalism. That is holistic education.
I mean, I'm looking, so many things are going through my mind, like math. I teach math, and I think we've talked about this in our previous podcast, and I can't remember who I spoke to, but I speak about this all the time because it's a theme that's just brewing in my mind. It's like arithmetic, or adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Those are 4 skill sets. Okay, I teach it to my kids exactly mechanically, as that's when you add, you're actually putting 2 things together, right? Subtracting, you're taking things away, blah blah. Okay. Then in that same lesson, I will show them a problem. I'll give them a problem, a real life problem, and then I'll give them the strategies on how to navigate understanding the problem and how to connect those skills and shove it into the problem, and where to use it in the problem, right? Based on understanding the problem. And then I'll basically, you know, navigate them through that whole process. And then we debrief, we look back, it's okay, how come you got this answer? You were supposed to add. So what are you supposed to do when you do this and that? And then, you know, then the solution ends up being solid, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, it takes experience for you to do that. So like yesterday, just a little plug into our seminar yesterday, Christian and I had a great time. We did this free promotional thing online. And really quickly, to your point, we were doing, my portion of it was shutoke.
Yeah.
And his was flow drills, flow striking drills, and all this brilliant stuff. And we just went back and forth, kind of like a Bunkai jazz thing, which was kind of inspired by you, he said, right? So we did that, and so here's the form, okay? Here's the form, and when we deliver it from the back, it looks kind of like something like this, right?
Yeah.
Different styles have it low, or some styles have it here. I've seen some styles, they meet their hands like this, but the idea is the hands go back. So now here's the tool, right? So what I've been doing lately, and this is what gives me a lot of how can I say, breadth and depth into my personal applications, is I look at where the hands are, what they're doing, and I also look at changing all these planes. So like when my hands are going here, okay, when it's going back like this, okay, if I were to rotate that plane and put it here, okay, in front of me now, okay, or even if I were to put it up here, okay, I've got an active hand and I've got 2 active hands. So what's stopping us from using this biomechanical structure like the letter A? I'm not changing anything. I'm using A. This is all part of that A. This is A. This is A, okay? But I'm taking that part and I'm just changing it in space. And so one of the applications I taught yesterday was to parry, use this hand to parry and just intercept something. Right? And if there's a barrier this way, then no problem. I'm going to use the shutoke structure to clear that hand and come in again, you know, and I'm continuously using these bent arm structures, all these rotations that are all built into that kihon. And so I love what you're saying. And what you're saying is, I think we just need to keep doing this and hitting the world with obvious truths, you know, but I still want to know, like, I want it coming from you. I want to know why the disconnect still, and what can we do to break that disconnect? Like
if you're talking about people today with it, as to why people might not want to practice karate in a more holistic way. Yeah. I think there's legitimate reasons and illegitimate reasons. Legitimately, I think people can say, I don't care about karate as an active martial art. I like this as a form of exercise. I find it culturally interesting. I like the way my body feels when I do it. Yeah. Fine. If you want to do your katas every day as art, or as a form of like little bit of almost like meditative, I'm on board. That's correct. But don't make a claim that you're then practicing karate as a functional martial art. You must Correct. Right? But for those that have that desire, but then would look at the likes of stuff that you, me, Christian, and many others do, and would see that as blasphemy. I think that's because my experience has been, right, is that they have learned a form of karate that they finished. Yes. So, you know, I've learned the katas now, I've learned all the set drills now, I'm now done. And then when the likes of us come along and say, no, that one move that you first learned there, I can work on that for a week straight, you know, without moving from another thing, and it will take a lifetime to get right. That can be quite a scary thought. Yeah. So the analogy I use is, it's like, so I'm sitting here in my house. Let's say I suddenly notice, oh, there's a door there. I hadn't saw that door before. And I open the door and there's another room. That's what discovering Bunkai is like to some people. And some people go, whoa, this is great. I now have another room. My house has just gone up in value. I love this. And there's no need to spend all your time in that room. Spend time in the other rooms too. But you've got this extra bit that, you can get a lot of enjoyment and benefit from. Some people, though, almost walk in, take a look and go, no, not for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's that acceptance that when you make that step is that you are never going to be done. You are never going to know it all. There is always going to be huge gaps in your knowledge.
Yep.
So if you reduce what you're trying to do to this, I just want to be able to do 15 katas correctly. Well, there's a point where you know karate. If you get to the point, I want to be able to understand how to apply it in a free-flowing, organic way in all the ways it can be applied, you've now got an endless task. And for some people, that's exciting, and for some people, it's terrifying.
Yeah. No, I understand. And I think, it's, well, before I go on, I just wanted to just respect a lot of people on here. So there's comments in here. I just don't want to miss them. Cole Pryor too, a friend of mine from the US. How you doing? He says, and we always need to thank the Okinawans for making their forms very to the point and quick to learn, and a collection of 6-minute monsters. A lot of people don't like to learn about violence, or they don't take it seriously because they think they will always be safe. Yeah, so there's a lot of people on here. Guys, if you could just quickly just shout out, put a heart, put a thumbs up, and also type in where you guys are from. Iain and I would love to know. I've got some of my students that I teach here in Toronto, they're on, and some of my friends. And I think a lot of these guys I don't really recognize. They're probably your followers, Iain. I know Lee Taylor is here. Hey, Lee, how you doing?
Yeah, Lee mentioned you might be on. He sent me a text message a day or two ago.
Yeah, he's here. Ben Forrester, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, Brian,
so yeah,
as well, yeah.
We've got Germany here. Sensei Andre Kielholz is here, I believe. And my Renshi, who promoted me to my third Dan, he's here. I don't know if he's still watching. I think he's here. Yeah. How you guys doing? Hey, from Finland, Juha from Finland. Kiram from Markham. Yeah, guys, type in where you're from. Steve Stewart from Hamilton. Fort Collins, Colorado. Wow. Shout out. Nice. Nottingham, UK. Very nice. Good. All right.
No, the
Go
point
ahead.
I was just about to make is you made the point of, both kind of, a fifth decade of life, sixth decade.
Yeah.
There's that the way that you train. So I think that's the other thing with the live practice as well, is that it needs to be appropriate to the level of the student, and it needs to be appropriate to the health of the student as well. So if you got the live practice, I think some people think that we're saying, okay, it's effectively like full contact, no holds barred right from the off. Well, as we talked about, it can be as simple as a live touching the opponent's shoulder, or trying to get a certain grip. You can make games out of it. Everyone can do it. I've had people in the 70s and 80s do this kind of sparring, and then you just choose the path that's appropriate to you. It doesn't need to be full on in. So that when people go, how do you do kata-based sparring, for example, that's a term I use. It's not a thing. It's a collection of 1,000 tools that you'll use. There's lots and lots of different drills and games, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So I just want to make sure that point was there in case people thought we were in any way, saying just throw them in the deep end and see how it happens. No, just like with the technical stuff, the sparring should be structured, as you mentioned. Yeah. One thing I've realised as well, just so we know, that's not beer. That's not beer. It's a beer mug, but it's coffee, I promise. I've just realised all the way through people think Spanish started early.
You're day drunk. Yeah,
it's coffee. I just like this mug because it's big. Yeah.
I got the Christmas inspired cup. I got coffee in here, and I got water. So when I do these things, I get really dehydrated. But to your point, live training can be for all ages, and it has to be adaptable to your physicality, right?
One of the things I do at the seminars, for those who've never done that, when I say, okay, we're going to do some live sparring, and this is the way I introduce it. Go, right, we're going to do some live sparring. Yep. We will include eye gouging, head butting, kneeing, elbow, biting, throat grabbing, groin grabbing. And you'll all enjoy it. No one will get hurt. You'll have fun. And they all look at me like I'm, what on earth are you about to do? But when I slowly build it up and show how we can do it slowly, again, everyone has fun with it. Everyone enjoys it.
Yep.
So yeah, you can structure it. You just got to be, clever about it.
Yeah, you got to be safe. You got to put in those things. Stuff. So like my father-in-law, he's 80 years old. He just turned 80 not too long ago. He's a hardcore Tai Chi guy. Love Tai Chi. He grew up learning it back and in his homeland oh man, I gotta know this. Macau, in an island off of Hong Kong, I believe. And he did a lot of Tai Chi. And he loves push hands. This movement here. Okay, and there's various ways of doing it. Single hand, double hand, and it just goes crazy. Now, freestyle Toi Xiao, it's called Toi Xiao. Freestyle Toi Xiao is on an application base. It's pretty dirty. So you're moving around. You're looking for underhooks. You're looking for pins. You're looking for strikes. You're looking for takedowns. Now he hasn't done any of that. But he's taken it to the point where he's done a lot of freestyle, but he hasn't done freestyle with application. So when I showed him, I said, Dad, I call him Dad. I go, Dad, show me your push hands. So we're at the dinner table and we're just sitting down. We're just doing push hands there, right? And then I said, Dad, I'm going to show you some ways that you can use it. And he goes, really, son? Okay, let's see. So I said, okay, but all I'm going to do is I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to just make it a little difficult for you. And all I want you to do, Dad, is really simple. I want you to keep flowing. And I want you to try to just avoid the impact of what's coming at you. Just try to avoid it. That's the only thing, Dad. You want to just avoid, but you want to keep sticky. You want to stay with me. You want to keep that Toi Xiao, but you just want to avoid. I just want to see what comes out, Dad. You ready? And he goes, okay, son, go. So we're like this. And then I just kind of gently push him hard like this. And what he did originally, he saw it coming. And you can see all his muscles tensing up. But then because of his Toi Xiao training, he just flipped his hips like this and he pushed me back. And I'm going, yes! I go, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. And I go, okay, Dad, now I'm going to mess it up even more. And so now he kind of knows and he's aware. So we're moving around and then I kind of drop levels. I put on my shoulder and then I'm pushing him. Then I put in my other hand. And then he knows from training, he knows how to bridge that gap and touch my hands and start flowing. So then him and we had to get up out of our chairs and we're moving around in the kitchen and we're going. And then I said, all right, this is getting interesting. So I grab my dad's head and I'm headbutting slowly. And then I'm throwing all these things. And my dad doesn't know anything about this stuff. But because of that, because I gave him that door to think about it, he's kind of like adapting now. So he kind of tucked his chin in because he knew my head was coming in. He shoved his shoulder in and he kind of shoved me out. And it was beautiful. And he's never done that before. You see what I'm saying? So to your point, I think, like if we can reiterate what that last point, what can you say to older martial artists to keep things alive?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've done that myself. I think the way I trained as a child wasn't the way I trained in my teens, wasn't the way I trained in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. And now I'm training differently again.
Yeah.
But I still think I'm making progress. I still think I'm improving. It's just got to be age appropriate.
Yeah.
There's a lovely line from Bill Wallace about this as well, where as you get older, obviously, it takes longer to recover from injuries. You're not as strong as you were. You're not as explosive as you were. You're not as flexible as you were. But you're always more experienced. Says, nothing takes the place of experience, you see. So, but I know, like, for example, I'm training with some of my younger students. They've got more gas in the tank and, they're physically more explosive. But that level of experience is something you just keep developing and developing and developing. I also think there's one of the advantages to getting older as well is you can't be as inefficient. You don't have the luxury of inefficiency. You have to train a bit more effectively, on all elements, because you can't make mistakes. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. I gave you earlier on, I started off, with my little understanding of Nagamine and, I used this book, for example, as a springboard to our discussion on traditionalism and evolution. And I gave, what I thought examples of one man who's an Okinawan, doing what I think is healthy traditionalism and evolution. The man was thinking about cross-training, and he did it. He did kendo, he did judo, he gave shout-outs to combat sport players for having the attributes of mobility and flexibility and endurance in their games. And he says that we need to turn to these types of activities to make our karate healthy. And he talked about it in a sense of a kill or be killed situation. So, you know, cross training, he says the conclusion I made from this was cross training is important to build your attribute base, and to especially if you're going to be looking at it from a self-defense point of view. And so now I just wanted to know, like, you know, from your take, if the masters, like, and you've mentioned a few, I think you talked about Mutubo Atuso, and I know in the past you've talked a lot about Matsumura. You also talked about the Atuso precepts and all that stuff, and I love all that stuff. And, you know, to be honest, just to tell you, it's guys like you, and even Andy and I, we've done a lot of collabs and we talk a lot too, and Les and all those guys. That's kind of making me kind of go back now and look at these books again, and, you know, just refresh and learn more, right? So I wanted to ask you, if the masters lived today, would they be happy with the state of karate that's happening now? Why not?
Yeah, I think there'd be a mix.
Yeah.
Would be my mind. But having said that, if you were to ask me, am I happy with the standard of karate of today?
Yeah.
I would say some of it and not other bits of it.
Yes.
So, you know, so to have the luxury of superimposing my own thoughts onto the past masters, I think that from some of them we know is, so for example, let's take Funakoshi talks about how the Jissen thing. So it's a term I use.
Jissen.
The idea of pursuing karate for use in actual conflict. Funakoshi wasn't so keen on that idea. He was very keen on it being a modern Buddha. So although, as you know, obviously a great admirer of Funakoshi's and quote him a lot, I can't help but feel that some of the approach that I have adopted and that of my peers, I think he would not agree with. I think he would be, that's not the route I wanted karate to go down. However, I think someone like Motobu would look at what we're doing and go, yep, you know, that's what it should be as well. I think they'd be very impressed with the technical standard. I think they'd be very, because I think that's definitely increased. You know what I mean? I think the standard of karate today, just because modern sports science and everything, all that kind of stuff, I think they'd be very impressed with that. I think they'd be overjoyed with how far it's spread, considering a lot of them were trying to save it from dying out in Okinawa. To tell them it's now practiced by tens of millions of people all over the globe, I think they'd be really impressed with. And I think the ease at which information flows back and forth, I think the classical masters would be very pleased that we're making use of that. Funakoshi, for example, would be delighted that you and I are having these kind of conversations and trying to learn from each other and trying to swap ideas and all that kind of stuff. I think they'd be overjoyed at the way people put stuff up on the internet to share ideas and bounce back and forth, the healthy seminar circuits and stuff. I think they'd be happy too. So maybe not happy with some of the nuances, but I think the big picture they'd be happy with. Yeah.
Cool. I'm learning more about, it's interesting, you know, like I have more time now and I'm maturing and I have more patience to read, you know, and make connections, you know, like I looked at this when I was 13, I looked at this and I was basically just wanted to get it. You know, there's a lot of hype in the dojo to buy it. And I wanted to get it simply because I wanted to learn. I wanted to be a good student. I wanted to impress my teacher. And, you know, but now I look at it, it's a gold mine. I look back at all these books and it's a gold mine of stuff. And it's really cool, man, to understand, you know. So I'd like to get to your stage where I know more about these teachers.
The ceiling above my head is creaking with books. You know, I mean, if you open the door, I mean, the shelves are kind of like 3 foot off the wall, absolutely covered with it. But the thing with it, you can read all of those books and there'll be one line that can be an inspirational, very revealing line. So people always go, what book should I get? There's just too many, you know. But I think definitely the stuff of the old masters, people should read that stuff.
Yep. Oh, for sure. I've heard you talk about this before. And I've spoken about it too, and I think it's I don't want to give it away. I'll just say it. Okay. What's your take on this statement? I am a martial artist who does karate.
Yeah, that's my thing. I've always said it, I'm a martial artist first, a karateka second, and I've no idea what style I am. That's the standard line, you know. So I think I'm lucky that way because I do interact with a lot of martial artists of different styles.
Yeah.
So therefore, and you find you can learn a lot from one another. So I don't want to go, oh, that's an honest thing, and I'm a karate guy. No, you're a martial artist. I'm a martial artist. Show me
right.
that. You know,
Yes.
so I'm a martial artist first. Now, and my chosen modus operandi for exploring the martial arts is karate, because I like it. I like the history of it. I like the culture of it. I like the structure of it. I don't believe it's the best any more than I could say that, you know, strawberry is the best flavor of ice cream. It just happens to be the one I like the most. So karate is my way of exploring the martial arts. That subdivision of karate styles, I don't subscribe to that anymore. I'm a karateka, because I believe the styles idea is too limiting. But yeah, martial arts first and foremost.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I got so much to talk to you about, but just to share, about a year ago, before all this COVID stuff happened, I'm always opening up the dojo here to different martial artists, right? That's part of my thing. You know, we have a lot of study groups down here. That's part of one of the things we do. And I teach privates out of here, and I travel and all that kind of stuff and teach there too. But I enjoy the cross training and the sharing among when instructors come here. And so sometimes I just meet people for the first time. So like we're talking, you know, buzz is going. So I had like this guy just messaged me like last year, and he goes, "Hey Chris, you want to train?" I go, "Sure, man." And then he says, "Yeah, I heard about you." And I go, "Yeah, oh, I see that name." I go, "Yeah, I heard about you too." He's a Silat guy and a Kali guy. Never met him before, but I've seen him at seminars, and we were actually at seminars together, but it was just so big that I never knew he was there, and vice versa. So he, ding dong, comes to my house, you know, give each other a bounce. I go, "All right, let's go downstairs." We, put our equipment on, this and that. And he goes, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "Anything, man. And he goes, "How about we just flow?" I go, "Okay." So we just kind of posture. And then as soon as we hit, boom, we're pairing, checking, flowing, kicking, coming in, this and that. And we're going at a really, I don't know this guy. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm also being guarded. Like I'm thinking, okay, if this is going to go crazy, I'm going to shut it down quick, or I'm just going to disengage and go get the hell out of my house. Right. But I kind of knew who he was because, I wouldn't let anybody in, but I kind of knew who he was because, he was a trusted friend, right? Of a friend. And so I knew that wouldn't go down. But anyway, we were just, as soon as that shot was thrown, we were wearing gloves. We were pairing, checking this and that, and flowing and, taking down all kinds. It was getting messy. But then we did it again. And then I was paying attention to what he was doing. And then all throughout that whole session, it was going something like this. "Hey, what'd you do there?" I go, "Hey, I did this. It's called this. Well, we call it this. My teacher taught me that." I go, "Oh, cool. We've got this. This is how I use this." And, "Oh, do that again," because it looks the same. So like, for example, one of the things was, in Rohai, we start off like, I don't want to ruin my wire here, but we start off like this. Yeah. Okay, then we go down like that. Yeah. And then I have to shift, but I can't do it. And then we look this way. Yeah. Then we do this. Our hand goes like this, and then we do this movement. We get into the frame. Boom, like that. Okay. Yeah. And our hands are hikite down this way. So it's boom, like that. So it's basically bam, bam, bam. Okay. So in our flow, we're moving, and I went for a hook line. Okay. And my partner, he kind of shrunk up like this. He checked it here, and then with this hand he came and he trapped my hand right here. Then from there he went for a smash, hit my head, elbow, and then he went to all these other things. But then the point is, when he did this and trapped and went in here, I said, "Stop." I go, "Stop that." Yeah, I'm thinking Rohai. I'm thinking, "Oh, we got that." And he says, show me. And so it's the immediate, as soon as I did what I just showed you, he goes, "Oh, I see that." And he goes, "Oh, that's cool." And he goes, "You know what? We use it for a grab," he goes, "but we also use this movement as a eye strike or a distraction. So we'd come in and slip off the line, and we'd go in like this." And he goes, and we just continue using that. If there's a barrier, he says, we will check that hand and go in here, or we'll check it and come in again, right? Using the same. And I'm going, this is what martial arts needs to be about, right? Yeah. So I wanted to share, like, what's your experience with that? Like, I know Christian talks about Bunkai jazz.
Yeah. Well, with the one is, I mean, what that reminds me of years ago, I'm probably talking about 25 years ago. I used to have these Friday night sessions for karateka who were into this kind of stuff. And then one of my students also trained in jiu-jitsu. So his jiu-jitsu instructor heard about what we're doing, said, can I come along? Yeah. He comes along. Oh, I've got another friend who does, you know, a BJJ. Can he come along? Yeah. But then we ended up with a Wing Chun guy there and a Thai boxer there. And we all just used to gather together on Fridays. And I said, this doesn't feel like I should be leading this anymore. So what I'd do was I'd always go, here's a move, here's an idea, here's a drill. And then the other instructor would jump in and build on it. You know what I mean? And I still teach things today that were a result of those mind melds.
Yeah.
Those Friday nights 20 years ago, you know. Martial, if people have that open mind and can interact like that, and it goes back to this thing of having holistic training as well. I sometimes find I've got more in common with martial artists who are not karateka than I have with karateka who are very limited in the thinking. Same. Yeah. Because I can talk the language, so like, you know, I can't trap like a Wing Chun guy can trap.
Yeah.
But I know enough trapping from the karate katas that we can have a conversation. You know, I can't throw like a judo dangre can throw, but I know enough about throwing that we can have a conversation. Do you know what I mean? So and sometimes I find you'll get these 3K karate guys. I have nothing in common with you. You know, yeah. I don't want to get involved in you know, how many horse stances can you fit on the head of the pin style arguments? You know, these kind of, you know, crazy. I can't do it. But I've trained with Krav Maga guys, Wing Chun guys, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, judo guys, MMA guys, and been able to kind of just train as martial artists because we've got enough of a crossover between what we do, and then swap ideas and concepts in a way that everyone finds it interesting.
That's great, man. You know, like the way I see it is like when you do that, right? Especially, you know, if you're, let's just say when you do that and when you're just open and you're just sharing, you're putting out all the tools out there and we're all getting a chance to try it and play and kind of share. That's where the real learning happens. And the way I see it is you get to see all the similarities and the differences are just little nuances, but the similarities are more than the differences, I find.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
you know? Yeah. And like, I mean, let's face it. Let's look at the human body. The human body is a machine. It's a product from wherever. It's an amazing product. But I think over the evolution of us being humans, we've figured out how this thing breaks, right? We know how things break. We know about the malfunction of this body. You know, let's just say from a biomechanical level, like you turn it this way, things are it's gonna hurt, right? You hit certain parts, you smash certain parts, you push certain parts. Okay, so we know how to break, we know how to heal. And, you know, we're learning new ways of doing that, you know, as, you know, science progresses and this and that. But the general basics of inflicting harm on us and how this generally, the system malfunction of our human body, I think cultures, it's culture, how can I say, it's standard, right? Yeah. We just call it different things, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. And that's the other side of the cross-training thing as well. Because nowadays, as we talked about, you get arts that specialise. So boxing, for example, specialises in punching.
Striking,
yeah, and do it to an incredibly high level.
100%.
If you look at the boxing of the 1900s.
Yes, I want to know about this.
Yeah. So what you've got is, it's got what you'd recognise as trapping, a little bit of kicking, throwing.
Kicking? It's got kicking?
Yeah,
really?
Purring is the name of kicking. Yeah, it's got kicking skills in there. But basic, you know, kick a guy when he's down, kick him in his shins, but it's all there.
Yeah.
They would have, the old manuals had weapons practice in it. It was a much more holistic martial art. So nowadays, if someone saw a simple trap, right? A lot of martial artists would look at that and go, "Oh, that's Wing Chun." No, it's not. It's every single martial art in existence. Because they all need to know you can't hit the guy in the head if his arm's in the way.
Right.
So every single martial art,
it's a natural reaction. Yeah.
Wing Chun have specialised in it.
Yeah.
You know, so they're the art that people in the modern age associate with it. But all of the older versions of the martial arts are quite holistic. Judo old manuals have punching and kicking in them and all that kind of stuff. You know, so it's the fact that some of the arts have narrowed the focus and excelled can still help the more broad-based martial artists because we can go, wow, that's some pretty cool stuff you're doing now. Because that's all I do. So you and I would say, you know, I'm a martial artist first, a karateka second, for example. But there are people who I know, and there's nothing wrong with this, will go, oh, I'm a judo guy first, I'm a martial artist second. You know, so judo is, they want to be good at judo, and judo is their thing. And if they can learn something else about other martial arts, then yeah, okay, I'll learn it. But I'm mainly interested in excelling in this one area. Whereas my thing is, no, I want to learn all of it. You know, and then say karate is the vehicle that I choose to do it. Yeah, so it is interesting how I call it the common origins myth, that people say, oh, hip throw, well, how did that judo move get in the kata? It didn't. It's a hip throw.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Every culture, I always liked the bow and arrow. There's not a culture in existence, ancient culture, that didn't invent the bow and arrow. There wasn't some Stone Age Steve Jobs who invented the bow and arrow and went on a world tour teaching it to every community, right? They all worked out independently. So it's not like the first tribe bumped into tribe B and go, we've worked out this hurts. Oh, really? We've worked out bending this. Do you want to trade weapons? You know, everyone works out what a punch is. Everyone works out what a lock is.
Yeah, to the point earlier, like I think, you know, we're humans, man. We've socialized. We've gotten in each other's nerves. We've destroyed each other. So we know, we've got experience with all that stuff. Certain things break, and we figured it out. We figured it out, right?
On Drager.
Dragon.
His book said it was paraphrasing the Bible, right? So there's a line in the Bible: "There's nothing new under the sun," right? So when he was talking about martial arts, Don Drager said, he goes, "There is nothing new under the sun, except perhaps the very old." So the stuff that people have forgotten about seems new. So if you show a boxer how to add a kick into his sequence, he goes, "Whoa, you know, this is new." No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's very old.
Yeah, it's just old. It's been there. You know, like I see, the thing is, like the fact that I'm how can I say, I'm very blessed and lucky to have the reciprocal, like I put out there, I said, look, I want to train, let's have this unity type of environment. And you know, not everybody, it's not for everyone, but you know, I'm fostering this culture where, you know, we can have study groups and training and all this kind of stuff. And then it's getting bigger in a sense that, you know, I'm putting this idea out there, and I'm going out there, and I'm, you know, slowly by slowly, I'm getting into planes now, you know, and leaving and training and sharing. When this happens, you get so much meaning from all these other people give you input into your current training. So like, for example, like, you know, this whole, Les is going to love this whole Hikite thing. And I don't want to start this, but I'm just saying, like, and you yeah, I know, please. And we won't, trust me. I just, a small little minutia, you know, you've in one of your videos, you've mentioned this, and incidentally, you know, I've kind of discovered it just from moving, you know, like this recoil here, right? If you look at, you can think about this with practically any movement, any kihon, is you look at the whole movement. So this hand, wherever it is, you know, or if you're doing something, let's just say you're taking this hand, it's got to go back here. This hand has to go all the way from here to here, but it's also going here and here and here and here, right? And then the idea is it's, okay, maybe coiling or maybe coming down this way, right? And so what's stopping us from using that concept? And boxers do it all the time, and combat sport players, from a very abbreviated point of view, they're here and they're pairing and hitting, right? Yeah. To me, that's hikite. You know, that little minutia of here to here, that's hikite. Yeah. This here is an arm strip. Like, so like if you're going here, you know, where wrestlers do that. So they're coming in, they're crashing in, boom, they're here and they're pulling. That's, to me, is hikite. It's like the same biomechanical
which is in loads of kata. The first movement you described is in loads. It's in the babishi, called the bird flaps its wings, is the name of the technique, where you'll flap and then strike with the same arm. And that's it. We'll do that as a close range thing, with bang with your hand.
Boom. Yeah.
And then we'll adapt it to the sparring. You know what I mean? So you see the idea of pawing down the hands and then coming over the top with the jab as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nothing new. You know what I mean? That's it's same stuff.
And the thing is, you know, when I play with, like, here's another example I'm sure we can share because we both have daughters, right? When I play with my daughter, okay, I'm moving around and my hands are in her face and stuff. She instinctively kind of just swats my hand out of the way and wants to hit me back, you know? She'll go, boom, you know, and there's no training there. You know what I
No,
mean?
listen,
Like,
now the other one is like, you know, like, so I'll hold my hand up and my daughter would try and slap it. Right?
yeah.
So you play that game of going and you do this, you move it, you see, and she misses twice, and then what she does is she puts her other hand on it.
Yeah.
You know
to
what I mean?
stop
So
it.
then she hits it. Yeah, so there's the other use they can take to get that grip. You know what I mean? So you know where the enemy is, that proprioception thing. I don't think it's a coincidence that the first thing most school teachers is, grab him and hit him. If you get two untrained people fighting, what's the first instinctive thing they'll do? They'll try and grab and then hit. I always say our hands are good for two things: the fantastic clamps and the good clubs.
Right, right.
So they'll do that. They'll clamp and club. You know what I mean? So and that's the first move you learn pretty much in any karate dojo.
Yeah, you see, like to me, all this stuff is like solutions that are put together that are passed on. There's stuff that's all figured out. It's just there in a package. It's like, here, take it, play, right? And that's how it's great, man. Oh man, we could talk forever, but I just want to say thank you once again. Round 2, really love it. I hope you had a good time.
I always really enjoy talking to you, Chris. It's great.
Thank you.
Your enthusiasm. I mean, I get told I'm enthusiastic. I think you're a level above.
That's right.
So I love it. I really enjoy talking to you. It's great. Your enthusiasm sparks things in my head. So it's been fun. And we can do round 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't
I appreciate that, man.
Right? Yeah.
No, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. People think, I want to tell you, like, people who don't really know me, this like level of boom, like this kind of energy level, my students are used to it. Like when they first meet me at the beginning of the semester, they're like, whoa, right? But then they all become like me. They're all like, they love it because I foster a kind of a fun-loving, spirited kind of, environment in the classroom. And I think it's important, but those who don't know me, they think I'm nuts, man. They're going.
I also think within the karate world as well, sometimes people teach in a very dour, grey way, bowing and it's all flat. I think when people like yourself have that energy and a bit of humour, it's just such a more enjoyable learning environment, right? You know what I mean? So I get within the martial arts, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I like it. Keep doing it.
Thank you. Like I've experimented with both styles too. Like I'm always changing up my teaching style, like academically and also with martial arts. And I find, to your point, like if I and it all depends. Like sometimes I will teach, I'll have to act like I have to, because that's not me. I'd have to, all right, guys, come inside, sit down. All right, take your books out. Okay, you got 10 seconds. Let's go. 10, 9, I'd count. I'll be like a drill sergeant. I go, okay, get your books out, get your pencils out. Right, turn to this page. Right. And some classes need that because they just need that. But then generally, when I experiment, when I crack a few jokes, and it's a timing and experience thing, I'll crack a few jokes and I'll just kind of keep things going and this and that. I find that the guard drops and the kids become more, laugh and they enjoy and they want to share more. And kids that are normally like, they're shy, their hands are up or they're blurred out answers and whatever. You know what? I like that. And then at a seminar at the end of the so now if we talk about martial arts, like I've done a few seminars, not nowhere near as much as you've done, but I'm starting now to do a bit more here in Toronto. And the few that I did, I've experimented with different teaching styles. And near the end, I say, hey guys, so you saw what we did, what worked, what didn't, what pissed you off, what are some things that you're saying, no, there's no way this is going to work, and why? What makes you think that? And I'd love to know your thoughts. And I open it up in a sense that I kind of show that I'm vulnerable and I say, listen, I go to seminars and I know what I'm looking for. And sometimes there's some things that just don't work, but I'm kind of scared to say why it doesn't work. But I want you guys to be honest and tell me why it doesn't work, because I want to know, because that's going to help me. And maybe I can fix it, or it's going to make me think of something that I never really thought of, And so that kind of, to me, I don't care anymore now. I'm just going to be honest, and just keep going like that.
Yeah, and that's the same as martial arts. I'm exactly the same. I look at what I do. If it works, it works. I'll keep going. One of my instructors as well had a lovely phrase. You say, good teaching is 80% training, 20% entertaining. I always really like that, So
yeah.
The model I try and follow, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got to keep that on the back burner, because that 20% is it's going to sustain you. That's going to keep things flowing,
Yeah.
But
enthusiasm's infectious, but that might not be the right turn of phrase for the
people say to me, they're going, did you take crack cocaine before you started teaching? Like, what's going on, man? You know, like
it's a caffeine for me.
or people, they say to me, they're going, Chris, you know, we call you the passions of Chris. They go like that, right? But no, man, thank you so much. So listen, if you wanna get to know Iain a bit better, you wanna find Iain's stuff, we can find you at iainabernethy.com, correct?
Yeah, Iain and Abernethy with an E, not an A. Not Abernethy, it's Abernethy.
Abernethy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah,
I'm realizing it's more commonly spelled Nathy on your side of the Atlantic, so it's reminding people.
It's a Canadian thing. Who knows?
Well, US in particular, yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed to change to an ear when my.
Shoot, I hope I didn't mess it up on the thumbnails. I think I spelt it right. Nethy, Nethy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It'll find its way to me eventually.
Yeah, but yeah, so check him out there. And guys, if you like this kind of content, we do podcasts here, but I also share my martial art journey. I'm trying to put out as much practical ideas as I can. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you want to support the channel, I got a fresh batch of winter shipment of shirts, Karate Unity. I'm wearing them right now. They sweat really well. They're really good. I've got my logo here on the side, my Kempo logo, and I put the word relentless. I'm relentless. I want you guys to be relentless too. If you want one of these, they're only 25 Canadian dollars. You can message me at Karate Unity, pretty much DM me on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can email me at karateunity@gmail.com. Chris Hanson signing out. Thanks for watching. I'm going to put all this out on YouTube. Thank you, Iain. Do you have any last things to say before we go?
No, I'm good. I've enjoyed it. It's been nice to talk to you again.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And remember to treat each other with kindness and respect. Bye, guys.
See you soon. Bye-bye.